Hey guys, just got home from day one of the Power Platform World Tour here in Atlanta, and I have a couple of things to talk about. First of all, I was super blown away with attendance for this event. I mean, we keep on hosting these local group user group meetings, and we get about 20 people sometimes, maybe pushing it to 20 something, almost 30 people. But today we had like 200 or 300 people in there learning about the Power Platform. So I was really excited to see that. I met people from LA, I met people from New York, from all over the place. There were some people from Germany there even attending the event. Atlanta is such an easy place to get to that a lot of people took the advantage to come in and enjoy this two-day conference. I wasn't speaking today. I'm speaking actually tomorrow morning about CDS. But one of the things I wanted to talk about that I noticed today in a couple of sessions that can actually elevate your session and the quality of it to a next level is knowing your audience. So I wanted to talk about that because I know that a lot of you that watch these videos are also speaker at conferences, or perhaps you speak at the office, right, to your coworkers, you host sessions and things like that, or maybe you present to customers if you're a salesperson, if you're just a user. And I think that knowing your audience is super important. And I'll tell you how I thought about that in today's event. There were a couple of demos today. One of them was done by Belinda Allen, who's an MVP, and she did a great demo during the keynote about how you can fire flows from Power Automate with, when you enter a geographical location, like a building or something like that. And she gave a couple of examples. I believe the original demo was by another MVP named Reza, and Reza did a demo about having a flow fire every time he goes to the gym. So an entrance is created, is time-stamped, and actually kind of track his gym activities and his exercise activities. Every time he goes there, it gets tracked, and the flows will fire back and ask him what he worked on, like, oh, I worked in my legs or my chest or whatever it was. So he's able to track a pretty intricate detail and log of his workouts. And then Belinda did one for airports. So she's like, I travel a lot and I wanted to kind of do the same but with airports. So she was able to zone in into different airports that she travels to a lot, and now the flows will fire and kind of keep track of the logs of her travel logs essentially as she travels. But one of the things that I was missing from that is, how do we actually use that in business, right? Remember, you have a room full of 200 to 300 people there that are either implementing Dynamics 365 and Power Platform solutions or using those solutions for their business. So they're there to learn how they can leverage those solutions, the Power Platform solutions like Power BI, Power Automate, Power Apps, etc., and CDS. How can those solutions benefit the company, help the company grow, get better at what the company does? So I found myself watching the demos. Obviously, they're amazing, and everything worked out today, perfectly, which was great. But I found myself trying to think of ways in which my customers or even our own company can benefit from things like that. Right now, I have a company that it's about to go live with field service. So I'm thinking about, well, if we could, geographically map the location of our biggest customers, we could perhaps track as employees go into those customers and they get timestamped when they go in, when they go out, or perhaps track every customer, and that way we know how long we're staying on location versus and compare it to how much time we're reporting. So if we're reporting that we were there 3 hours, well, this automation can potentially track when you went into the building and left, and maybe realize that you're spending 4 hours because you're talking to the customers and debriefing them or whatever, and we're not invoicing them for the time we're spending doing that. So I have to use my own imagination and kind of, think about scenarios, business scenarios in which I could use the functionality that I saw today for a business reason. That was more of a personal reason what I did it for. How can I use it for a business reason? And I don't think, or I'm not sure if every user attending the event is able to do that. It's able to extrapolate how I can use this gym checking, functionality or gym tracking functionality to the way we, deliver construction materials, because that's what we sell. So I would have loved to see a demo that it was more business related about manufacturing or, whatever it is, financial services, professional services, whatever it is. Show me a demo of a business leveraging something like that. The next session after the keynote that I attended was from someone who I wish I remember her name because she did such a good job. I wanted to give her kudos. And she did a session about implementing powered platform solutions from beginning to end. Like, how do you plan for them? What's the team that you should have? Iterations around it. How can you what are the things you should worry about initially versus the ones that you should do towards the end. She did such a good job with the session, and if I had to grade it, I would say it was 9 out of 10. It was a really, really excellent session. But what would have made it a 10 out of 10 is using a business example, right? Again, we have a room full of people that work for businesses sitting on a session about implementing a business solution, trying to learn how I'm going to do that. And the example she chose to use was the example of an application that she created to track her dogs. She has 3 dogs, and she wanted to track when the dogs go to the vet, when they take medicine, all that stuff. And yeah, the application was great, and she showed how she can use Power Apps with CDS and Power BI to come up with information and metrics about her dogs and stuff like that. I understood it. I have dogs too, but show me a business application for it. And to her credit, she went into her company and she showed us some of the Power Apps her company's using briefly. Obviously, you don't want to give away kind of your IP and what you're doing for competitors and things like that. But she showed us, there was one, I think, about tracking consultants and projects that were assigned and hours they worked and things like that. It was kind of cool, but I just wish that wasn't the main example of the session. I wish that the main example, which was that I think she called it Top Dog or something like that, was the name of her solution. I just wish that solution was a business one. Perhaps use the one from her business or one of the ones that the business is using and change it a little bit, right? Remove logos, change the scenario a little bit, and talk about how a business that does professional services, which is who she worked for, would benefit from a Power application with CDS, with Power BI. I would have loved to see a business solution being the main demo and the main subject of it, rather than a session about her ducks. But once again, it was a great session. I want to take away from her all the lessons that we learned. She clearly knows what she's talking about. She does it for a living. I could see that this is not something that she invented. This is real. The struggle is real, as you say. So she's been working with this and struggling with it for a long time. I totally respect her content and the background that she brought in, but she would have just smashed it out of the park if she just used the right examples based on the right people in the room, the right audience. So again, if we have to narrow it down to this tip, for those of you presenting to anybody, know your audience, pick the right examples, and come up with stories that would benefit a large portion of your audience, if not the entire audience. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see how it goes tomorrow at day 2 of the Power Platform World Tour here in Atlanta.